Okay, on to part two of our clones. So we have our clones that we took in from our mother plants. I use standard flat tray with some of the little 6-pack holders in here. And what I've done is I've taken some of these starter plugs. This is just a peat-based starter plug. It won't break down in any type of system. We can do this in hydro, cocoa, soils, it doesn't matter. It's fantastic for getting roots started. It's nice and spongy, enough air in there to get that root zone started properly. I've soaked these in what's called Clonex solution, which is basically just a bunch of micronutrients, so it helps with root development faster. And it also, once there is roots developed there, there is a little bit of food for those to eat off of to keep those leaves from getting yellow on you. I like to put these in here like this. Just gives you enough space for each leaf. So you'll see once we get these plants in here, you want to leave a little bit of space in there and keep from overcrowding. But obviously, if you're taking hundreds of clones, you're just going to have to pack them in there tight. So once these soaked, I soak these things for about 30 minutes in that solution, just to get them nice and wet to get ready for the cloning process. We've got our typical cloning gel. It just has endobutyric acid, which your plants naturally have that in there, but that helps with root development. I know a lot of people like to use scalpels to take these cuts. I use a pair of clean scissors. I've been doing this for a long time. I've done both ways, and I can still get the same success by using just your standard scissors versus scalpels as well. But to each their own. You make your own decisions on how you want to take them. So we've got our first clone that I took off of our plant, and you'll see we've got different node spacings in here. Each one of those nodes is where a root's actually going to pop out of. So I try to get as close to it as you can, but also cutting it under the water. So if you go under the water and give it a good cut, just like that. So you can see we cut it under the water. We have one node right there. We can trim some of this off here as well. It's not completely necessary. So once we've got that under the water, what that does is it keeps you from getting an air bubble inside of that clone. Any air gets in there, it's going to keep that root from wanting to develop. We take your bottom of this, I dip it inside of my cloning gel, just give it a good little spin until it's nice and coated. Once we got that, we're going to go directly into the hole that are on top right there. So we're just going to put that right inside of there, and we're going to do that to the rest of these. Now typically in your humidome type scenario for clones, it takes anywhere from, I've seen 14 to 21 days. It really depends on, I've noticed in temperature. Wintertime, I seem to have a slower success than in the winter or than summertime, just because it is a little bit colder. But I've got heat mats that have a thermostat that'll get you that exact temperature that you're looking for. I try to say anywhere from 76 to about 80 degrees. You start getting any higher than that, you can really start to see bad bacteria start to build up on you, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. And once I get these in here, what I like to do is to come through here and we'll cut the tops of these leaves in a pattern just like this. And what this is going to do is it's telling your plant that we're not producing plant growth, you're more focused on root development. I've tried these different ways just by throwing your plants in there, and it seems I've always get faster success rate by just clipping these tips, just like so. I don't know if it just slows down, it definitely makes your roots development faster. But if I'm in my typical cloning machine, I'll just toss those things directly in there and let them roll. Because in your cloning machines, you can pop out roots. I've seen some produce roots in 5 days before. And it really depends on how healthy your clones are to begin with and how healthy your mothers are. But just look at that. You're going to get just the tip of those leaves off of there. And we'll do that with all of these. Honestly, you can take it off before just to save you some time as well. Now, one thing I will tell you that I do like to do is once we get this humidome on here, we'll have this thing completely sealed up, but once a day I'll go by there and just open it up just to get some fresh air in there, because your plants, even though they don't have roots yet, they still need that CO2 and let some of that oxygen out of there, refresh that air that's in there, just to kind of keep everything from going stagnant on you. Because I've seen some, I've left them in there and didn't take the tops of them off there, and just had some very angry plants that you start to get mold buildup in there. The plants will be happy and healthy. It looks like they're going to want to pop roots out there. You take it out of the plug and it's completely rotted on the inside. So it definitely helps to get that fresh airflow in there. And then over time, what we'll do is, after usually 3 to 5 days of doing that, I'll slowly open those vents up. Most people's common mistakes are just completely taking this off and leaving it off. I've seen a lot of people that these things will be nice and happy and healthy. You take that off, you're used to something that's 95% humidity. The next thing you know, you're dropping it down to 50, and their plants will just bend over, they'll wilt, and they'll never want to bounce back. So you have to slowly reduce that humidity in these humidomes. It'll be the same way with us. You got to slowly reduce humidity to keep just any kind of negative effects that'll happen. So once we've got these things finished up, I like to put a small amount of water on the bottom of this tray, which really just helps to hold humidity in there. Alright, I'm gonna need those. And I like to just use that water that I had earlier, that I had some of these starter plugs soaking in, that does have some of those micronutrients in there. Just like that, just a small amount. Put your humidome back on top of these. You can rearrange this however you want to. I try to keep it to where my leaves aren't actually touching the side of the humidome. Keeps that from getting that mold buildup on there. And this is one of the taller ones. This is the 7-inch humidome. They make them in smaller sizes, 4s and 7s, which are great for starting seeds. But when you start taking clones that are this big, you really need the room for these plants to grow. Otherwise, you're just smashing those things down on you. So as you can see, we've got all the vents are completely closed. Seal this thing up nice and tight, and then we're going to go put it back underneath one of our grow lights. We'll check back on these things here in about 3 to 5 days and see where we're at.